Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever part of the world you're in, whatever time zone you're in. We've got a panel of guests with us this evening. All have their own YouTube channel. Please feel free to check their links in the comments below. We're going to be discussing portable radio this evening, so we're discussing antennas, radios, coax cables, just about anything you want really. Any questions, drop it in the live chat. We'll try and answer as many comments as we can, whether it's about radio or about our channels. And never underestimate a radio amateur's ability to digress and go well and truly off topic. So we will pretty much try and discuss everything. So just as we give it 1 or 2 more minutes for people to catch up with us in the live chat, we'll be back with you in just 1 second. Grab yourself a drink and join us as we discuss all things portable radio. And good evening. So you can see I have my lovely panel of guests here, and we've also got a few people in the comments as well. So who have we got in the comments? We've got Niels Jensen, evening from Denmark. We've got Steve Wheatstone, evening Steve. We've got Carl, he's big in the worldwide flora fauna. Had quite a few emails backs and forwards from him. And who else we got? Julian Chapman, Leonard, and the man who gets into every live stream, Andy Cowley. So before we go any further, I think most people watching this will have seen my channel before and know pretty much what I'm about. Mainly portable, mainly SOTA, do a bit of worldwide flora fauna, a bit of POTA. So let's go round the table and introduce the other people on the live stream. So I'm just going to start top left of my screen, which is Fraser. So Fraser, why don't you jump in, just tell us a little bit about your channel and what you do.
Okay, good evening, James. Good evening, everyone. Great to be here. I'm Fraser, MM0EFI, and I live up in the northeast of Scotland. And my channel is the Radio Rover. And if you've seen it, it's mainly me climbing hills and mountains, normally in horrendous blizzards, and trying to make some radio communications from the top. So I'm all about the outdoors. Occasionally I'll do a technical piece, but most of my videos are about just exploring the great outdoors.
And I should point out, rather facetiously, I joke that Fraser is an award-winning radio amateur because you've actually got your mountain goat, haven't you? Which basically means 1,000 points on SOTA activations, which is no mean feat. And there you go.
Yep, over on that.
You get a trophy as well, don't you? Have you got the trophy as well?
Yeah, the trophy's across at the house actually, so it's a lovely glass trophy you get.
Yeah, I think they've just changed it. I saw on the SOTA website. I think they're getting a new trophy. I think the old one's out of stock, but I've got one, perhaps not quite worth so much as yours, but I've got the. Sorry, shouting into the mic here as I reach across. I've got 1,000 chaser points, so you get the title of Shack Sloth. So that's. That's my one there. Not quite as difficult as what Fraser's got. Okay, so let's go around the table then. Dave's at the bottom left of my screen, so let's bring in Dave.
Yeah, how you doing? And thanks for having me in the stream here, James. Yeah, I'm Dave, call sign EI5IMB, Echo India 5, India Mike Bravo. And my channel is Irish Ham Radio, and mainly my content is portable and mobile. I do work from the shack here. It's a little bit of everything, not so much the technical side either, kind of more about my SOTA And recently now I've actually started also getting into worldwide flora and fauna, which was actually from watching yourself, James, to be honest, which was where I sort of heard about that. And then I realized that there's a fairly new worldwide flora fauna set up in Ireland now as well. So I've been doing that recently as well from the camper van. And pretty much, yeah, that's sort of my portable and mobile content, and a little bit in the shack and a small bit of technical.
Well, that's it. I mean, I hope by showing what I do on YouTube, and I'm sure you guys are the same, hopefully we can inspire a few people to get a few ideas, as you say, worldwide flora fauna. And I'm just looking in the comments here. Where's it gone? Gary H. I actually met him at the Hamfest, and he says there that it was my trip to the Marconi Centre that inspired him to visit there. So, like I say, it's always nice to try and inspire other people to try different things as well. And okay, let's bring Chris in, final guest on the bottom right. Chris, go for it.
Good evening, James. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everyone that's joined the live stream. My channel, it is easy to find, Chris M0RSF. That's Mike 0 Romeo Sierra Foxtrot. Mainly portable operation and QRP. I run the low power stuff. Done quite a lot of videos with the Yaesu FT817, which is my favourite transceiver. Mainly VHF stuff. I want to do more HF next year. So it's on the air. I participate in something called HEMA, which is the Hunt Excluding Marlins Award, which we might get into a little bit later on. If not, basically, the Summits on the Air list is run from the Marlins list, which is summits with 150 metre prominence. The HEMA is run from the Hunt list, which is mountains with 100 metre prominence. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're easier. There's some that's got quite a walk in. So that's basically what I'm all about: amateur radio, QRP, and portable operation.
Yeah, because you've got your DX100, haven't you? Which I think you said. Did you say you did it all QRP?
Yes, I think I got this call sign. Our first license 2005, and I got this call sign in 2011, and I went down the QRP route. And I checked my logbook. I don't play as much radio as I should. I've only 3,600 QSOs in my logbook. And I think I'm currently on 101 DXCCs with 5 watts or less.
That's pretty good going. I think I'm only up to, I think I'm on about 80 something, 85, something like that. I mean, I'm not actively chasing it, but I do try and make contacts where I can, especially in CQ Worldwide's always a good one for getting new entities that you wouldn't normally get.
Yeah, contests.
Managed to get a few contacts there, yeah.
Yeah, love or hate them. It's a chance to rack up your scores for your DXCCs and your IOTAs or whatever else. So they've got the uses. They're not for everybody. I don't mind them.
Yeah, it's not for me, but at the same time, you know, as you say, you can rack up some good contacts there. And sometimes it's fun, even if you don't take it seriously, just to give out a few points here and there, you know, just make a few contacts you wouldn't otherwise have made.
Yeah, exactly. You can put as much or as little into it as you want. You don't have to go bonkers, do you? Some people do. As you guys will have heard, some of the serial numbers they give out, they're into the thousands, you know, lots of contacts. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm somewhere around the 80 something as well, and it's you come to a bit of a bottleneck, I think, at around that sort of point where you need to I think you need to start chasing it or go into DX or something, DXCC or something like that, into the worldwide, or contest or somewhere. I've just sort of stuck around that 80 something for a long time now, to be honest. But then again, well, that's really good though with QRP though. That's unreal, Chris, like, in fairness. Yeah. But yeah, I think you need to start going on at certain times of the day and make a bit of an effort.
Certainly do. 3,600 in 11 years is not great, is it really? I need to play more radio.
Oh no, doing well.
Well, I think
okay, so should we?
Sorry, I was just going to say I'm a bad person because I don't actually know how many DXCC I've got because I don't count anything up and I never have. And the only award I've ever got in my life is the mountain goat. So now that that's out of the way, I might have to look at my data and go and find something else to do.
Well, I was going through the SOTA awards the other day because you can see what awards you're owed and count up your points and whatever and get certificates. And I just went through and ordered every certificate I was owed off the SOTA website, and I ended up with a big wallet like that. So it's surprising how much you can get. And on the Worldwide Flora Fauna program as well, you get quite a few there. They seem to rack up fairly quickly.
Oh, can you?
So,
I didn't even know there was sort of intermediate certificates. So there's something in between. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's every. Carl, who's in the comments, will correct me on this. I think it's every 10 parks that you work. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, basically you have to apply for it through the website. So you need a Worldwide Flora Fauna account. Then you can go into all the awards and it says apply for it, and then they send it to you via email.
Very good.
So, okay, so talking of portable operating, then let's talk a little bit about the different award schemes. So we've already mentioned HEMA and Worldwide Flora Fauna. We all do SOTA, so we're all quite familiar with SOTA. What else is there? There's Worked All Britain and POTA are the other ones, aren't there? Don't know if any of you guys got involved in those.
Worked All Ireland here as well. Yeah, it's the same.
Valid point. Yeah, I hadn't considered that one. Yeah, so basically, they break it down into, is it postcodes? I think they break it down into, or 10 kilometre squares.
In Ireland, it's the Ordnance Survey. For the Worked All Ireland anyway. Sorry, it's Ordnance Survey map. So it's your letter and your two first numbers. So that's kind of the way it works. So 10 kilometre squares essentially, all the 10 kilometre squares. That's what it is. Okay, yeah, I mean, it's something I do a little bit of. I casually chase Worked All Britain, but I don't do a huge amount of. I mean, I'll give out the Worked All Britain square on the SOTA Summit. It seems to generate a few extra contact. I think some of the SOTA Summits are don't get activated very often for Worked All Britain. So I think some of the Worked All Britain guys like to chase those. The thing I found
I've been in a rare square on a few occasions when you're in the middle of the Cairngorms, in the middle of nowhere, and once the word gets out that you're there, the WAB boys are very quick to jump on it. But even today, I had somebody on 20 meters asking me for a WAB square from Slovenia or something like that, which I thought was quite unusual. The first time that's happened.
I have to say, there's a surprising number of people from outside of this country who do chase Worked All Britain. So I've given out Worked All Britain squares quite a lot on Worldwide Flora Fauna and SOTA activations. I did previously say that they don't have a spotting site. I've since found out that they do, but it's not the most obvious one to come across. So maybe I'll put a link in the description for that. It's a bit basic compared to SOTA, but it's basically a Excel spreadsheet which you fill in. So basic, but I guess it works.
I've got an ally in the chat. Tim Golf 5 Tango Mike is saying that he doesn't have a clue where he is with DXCC either. He just likes getting out and operating his radio, same as me. So I'm not the only one, thankfully.
Well, yeah, I think it's whatever floats your boat in amateur radio, isn't it? I think that's a good thing to have. Not put that pressure on yourself to go out and achieve something. Just go out, have fun. You don't necessarily have to have a goal, do you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, So SOTA is a great one, and any of the award schemes I think that allow you to sort of mix, for me anyway, that allows you to mix another hobby. Like amateur radio will be one thing that I do. It's not the only thing, and I like the way that SOTA allows you to mix in the hill walking or hiking, mountaineering, whatever you want to call it, in with your radio as well. So that's one of the cool things about SOTA, particularly for me.
Yep. Most definitely. Worldwide Flora Fauna as well, perhaps somewhat easier for people who perhaps have mobility issues, can't get up SOTA summits. Then Worldwide Flora Fauna, you're allowed to operate from the car as well if you can get the car within the park. So I guess in a way that's a bit more inclusive.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, again, what I always say about, I've only recently got into it, and as I said, to be honest with you, it was from yourself, James. I saw you activating Worldwide Flora Fauna, and I started looking in to see what it was all about, and
big pile-ups.
Yeah, and you were doing POTA, I think, a bit, or you're doing a bit of POTA as well, but the Worldwide Flora Fauna, I just happened to notice around the same time you were doing a good bit of it. The EIFF, the Echo India Flora Fauna, came along, and it started up, so there was an option to do it here. And definitely the accessibility is the best thing about it. I mean, from a camper van, from a car, or even if you want to work portable but still have the car beside you or whatever, as long as you can get into the activation zone, like it's a very accessible one. Now, I know it's 44 contacts, but you can do it over multiple visits as well. So that's
the other great thing about it. And you combine that with SOTA as well. You can get 20 odd contacts just from SOTA, maybe more on the SOTA Summit. So combine that with Worldwide Flora Fauna. You notice a lot of the chasers cross over. They do both programs.
Yeah.
But if you can get another 20 or so contacts from Worldwide Flora Fauna, you're there, aren't you? You've got your 44 with a combination of Flora Fauna and SOTA.
Mm-hmm.
And then I noticed... Sorry, go on, Chris.
So what we're sort of saying there, James, is many of the SOTA summits, they lie in areas of outstanding natural beauty and national parks that qualify for flora and fauna as well. So it's 2 for 1 on your activation.
It's great. You can work it that way. All right, we still have generally in Ireland, they're probably the same as yourselves as well, Chris, as well. It follows the special areas of conservation, is it, or something like that, or areas of outstanding beauty, did you call it?
Yeah.
It's the same. It's generally SACs in Ireland are the flora and fauna sites, but not all SACs are registered as flora and fauna sites for the amateur radio side of it. And I think really that's mainly just because of the youth of the award in the country. And at the end of the day, all of these things are being done by volunteers as well. So, and to be honest, I much actually look and see are some of the summits I've done flora fauna sites as well, because I only started the flora fauna recently. So.
The other thing is,
James, if you want me to jump in, there's one for Dave. Is there many worldwide flora and fauna in Ireland?
Yeah, there are. That's what I was just saying there. Yeah, there's a good few. Yeah, not all the special areas of conservation are worldwide flora and fauna for amateur radio, but a good few of them are. There's a good few now, even close to me. As I said, really, James sort of enlightened me to it, and around the same time as I was watching him doing it, you went through a period there, James, where you're doing a good few of them. And around the same time, the Eco India Flora Fauna scheme started, and now there's flora fauna here, there, and everywhere around, and they're great. It's again the accessibility of it. So if somebody wants to go portable, but maybe they're not into mountaineering or hiking, and don't want to climb up a mountain, I mean, this is another way of kind of getting out, especially during the summer. If you're picnic, it's very good. But there's a good few of them, Fraser. Sorry to answer your question. Yeah, there's a good few now.
Cool.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is with you got POTA as well, Parks on the Air. You notice a lot of the POTA references overlap with the Worldwide Flora Fauna references. So what a lot of people are doing are going out and activating basically 3 for the price of 1. They're doing POTA, Worldwide Flora Fauna, and SOTA all in one.
Well, that's something actually that I don't know. I'll tell you, if there's some of the EIs in the comments, they might be able to correct me on it, but I'm not aware of POTA in Eco India. And it might just not have come across under my nose. But somebody maybe can maybe correct me on that in the comments. There might be a few EIs in there, but not that I'm aware of anyway.
And I was just noticing someone in the comments here says they activate Work Till Britain, lighthouses, castles. There are 2 others we haven't talked about. I don't know an awful lot about them, to be fair. But they can't do SOTA due to arthritic problems, which goes back to what I said earlier. It's that inclusivity, isn't it? There's whatever portable operating you want to do, there's something out there for everybody. You just need to find the right program.
Yeah, and there's so many advantages to getting away from a built-up area and all this electrical noise and broadband VDSL and all this kind of stuff. And I guess a lot of people won't realise if you just sit in a park and turn your radio on and you just hear S1 noise, and the 20-meter band sometimes sounds like it's actually closed, or 15 meters, because there's no noise on it. You put a call out, and especially if you spot yourself, and people come back, the band's open, but it's just very, very quiet compared to what you're used to.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of videos, I think, on my channel, on Dave's channel, where we've had SOTA contacts, and I can hear Dave absolutely clearly because there's no noise, and he's struggling to hear me and absolutely screaming into the mic. And in fact, we had a similar thing earlier today because Dave was on the SOTA Summit earlier today, and he was an S5, but I had a load of local electrical noise, so I was struggling to hear him. So it's just getting away from all that noise. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it is. You were 5'9", I think I gave you today, wasn't it? You were perfect into me anyway.
Yeah.
I could hear you lovely.
Yeah. How many watts were you running on that one, Dave?
I have 50. I'm kind of
50. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, there was a bit of a difference. I was probably going a bit overkill on it. I was running 250. So that was probably a bit over the top. To
you
be
can see
fair,
the scorch
but,
marks on the cloud, above.
Just after that, James,
sorry, say that again.
people saying that they might not be able to get involved. I've done talks at several radio clubs about something on the air. Always gone down well. I've heard that loads of times that they're too old now. I can't get involved with this. But you don't necessarily have to be the one climbing the hill, the activator. They can chase from home.
Yeah.
They can start to collect the SOTA points or whatever. They can start to collect awards. And of course, those guys that make the effort to climb the hills in sometimes far from ideal conditions, we always appreciate a call from anybody. Yeah,
Definitely.
So you don't have to be super fit to get involved.
Well, I'll make the point. I normally do quite a bit of activating, but this last couple of weeks I've actually had this flu bug that's going around. Had a bit of a cold, still got a bit of a cough. So I had hoped to be out in the last couple of weeks, but instead of getting up on the hills, because I haven't really been up to it, I've been doing an awful lot of chasing, and I've racked up quite a good number of points in the last couple of weeks. So you're quite right. There's two sides to it. There's the chasing and the activating. But the other thing the point I was going to make with activating is you don't necessarily need to tackle the big hills. There's a couple of hills you can actually basically drive onto, and okay, you have to be outside of the car to activate it, but that could mean literally walking 20 meters from the car on some of the summits.
There's a question here for you, James. If it's now Niels Jensen. James, can you talk about how to get started can you talk about how to get started if you wanted to explain it to your grandmom? So yeah, I don't know if for the end or if you'd like to take that now. I've just seen it in there.
Mobile phones, how it was 100 years. No, that I probably shouldn't say that. No, well, what do we reckon, guys? Let's put it onto the forum. I guess there's a social aspect to it, isn't there? It's communicating. It's technical hobby, so learn how the communications side of things work. Perhaps how it used to work, because communications have moved on an awful lot from where they used to be. If you look at mobile phones now compared to radios a few years ago, but it's good to learn how it used to be. And I think it's the whole challenge thing as well, isn't it? So a lot of outsiders would see it as going onto a hilltop and just talking to strangers, but I see it as the challenge.
Yeah, I think
so.
Yeah, I just, to be honest, for me, as I said again, I like the combination of combining it. I'd say if I wasn't doing portable, and I like working mobile as well. I do like working mobile. If I wasn't doing portable and combining it with hiking and that, I don't know if I'd be doing as much radio. I mean, my portable log is bigger than my shack log, so as is my mobile log. I'd say my mobile log is probably bigger than my shack log at this stage. So although I love operating from the shack, but it's the portable element and mobile element is what I like. That's what's good about the Worked All Ireland. It kind of came from, it was very popular, I think, in the late 90s, early 90s, when that sort of driving around with a big antenna on the roof was cool, and working people and going on skids and stuff like that, which I missed as an amateur. I would have been on CB back then, but yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes it's just difficult to get those big antennas up, isn't it? There's, if you live, especially if, like I do, I live in a mid-terrace, so you're limited on what you can put up. And to be fair, I've probably gone over the top, but it's gradually got bigger and bigger over the years, and it's surprising what I've got away with. I mean, I've got a cobweb antenna out the back there on the 12-meter mast, so I guess in many ways I'm lucky. A lot of people wouldn't have that. That's my higher bands, and then the lower bands, I've got an end-fed half-wave here for 40 meters with a coil and a bit of an extension on, so that gets me on 40 meters. That kind of snakes around the garden, so I can do 40 and 80 on that. I've got a tuner down here as well, so I can tune it up on 60 if I really want to. It's probably not particularly efficient, but it works.
It works.
Yep,
Exactly.
An interesting story as to how I got. I've had an amateur radio license for probably 20 years, but I've not had a station at home for at least 10, just through moving house. And like most people, when lockdown started, I was actually looking to get back in to start doing SOTA just before lockdown started, so I picked the wrong time. And then I started, when I did get out, started using my handheld, and really struggled on 2 meters because I live in a rural area and it's just no one. So then I was like, oh, I need to get the battery from the FT857, which was the only small radio I had. And I actually lugged a car battery up a hill the first time because it was all I had. It was like a small battery out of a quad, and I nearly died. And then there was like a 3-month wait for decent batteries, and eventually I got a LiPo 4 from Hobby King. And by that time, I had made myself a linked dipole, and I went up, and it was like learning how to work the radio again, though, because I hadn't done it for so long. But since I've been doing SOTA, I've actually learned more about operating standards, how my radio works, propagation, the solar cycle, all this kind of stuff. It's actually made me a much better amateur just by climbing hills and using my radio, and brought just so many different aspects to the hobby.
Well, that's it. You've got you're usually in less than ideal situation on a SOTA summit. Often blowing a gale, raining. You've got to manage this big pile up. So there's certain techniques there in controlling the pilot. Often you're the lowest power on that frequency as well. If you're only running 5-10 watts, you've got 200, 300, 400 watt plus stations all tearing through over the top of you. So you're just trying to manage it all. So I don't know what techniques do we have for dealing with that, because I think we all probably have our own way of dealing with it. I think for me, when it gets out of hand, I just drop key and shut up until they all get bored, and then say, right, now we start again.
I had it today, James. I've never had even other people commented to me that I was chatting to, just even on the phone, even on the I was on took my HT, my 2 meter HT, and I was on the local repeater as well on the way down, a bit of the way, and I got a few people commented that the pileup was mad. It was really bad on both 20 and 40, and I was getting cold, and it was just like, oh man. It's just, all you can do really is, if it's hard to pick someone out, what I didn't like today was I was asked multiple times for summits to summits or portable onlys, but there was still people kind of coming in that weren't portable, And look, that's just etiquette, and there's nothing you can do about that if people aren't following it. That's fair enough.
Yeah, I think a certain amount of it is etiquette, but I think the other side to that is what we were saying earlier. You can hear them clearly, but I think sometimes you're down around S2, yeah. S3, and they're struggling to pick you out through the noise. They're thinking, did he come back to me or not?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to fall into that trap, and I do it myself. I get frustrated, and then I stop and think, well, actually, can they hear what I'm trying to say to them? I'm only 10 watts.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. Like, I mean, it can be that as well, and you just don't know, because you just don't know the conditions at the other side. That's the thing about it. But yeah, I found it difficult today now, and even though I was getting great signals and loads of people in, but I suppose just how you deal with it, you just listen out and you hear them last usually 2 phonetics, and you kind of go, right, station ending in Quebec Charlie, please come back. It's the same. I mean,
well, yeah, that's exactly what happened earlier, wasn't it?
You watch anyone's videos, you watch any of the 4 of our videos, or anyone else that operates with a pile up, that's what they're doing. You watch any of the big guys that stream as well, and that's what they're at. They'll just pick out the last 2 phonetics and say ending in that.
It's true what they say, though.
I was just going to say, I was operating today. I used the historic transatlantic call sign today, the Golf Mike Whiskey Sierra, and I had a mega pileup on 40, and I think it was partly because of the call sign, but also because everyone's on holiday just now as well, and there's a lot more folk around. And I made 88 contacts, which is the most I've ever done from a SOTA summit. But and in some ways, it's a little bit of cheating when you're a SOTA operator, because you hear the same chasers all the time. And I would recognise now, I recognise Dave's voice when he's calling in, or I'll recognise, your voice, James, a few other guys I recognise. And sometimes you don't even hear the call sign, but you hear the tone of the voice, and you're like, oh, right, Echo ND5 or whatever, and you bring them in, and once you find it out a little bit, it gets a bit easier. But the last couple of times I've been up, because people are on holiday, it thins out, and then another load of guys realise, oh, somebody's up doing a SOTA summit, and then you'll have a second wave of pile up and a third wave, and it just goes on forever. It's been amazing.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true, because you hear, as you say, you hear the odd couple of letters at the end, and if I said Delta Tango, who would you go back to?
Echo Alpha 5.
Oh, I know that one. Yeah, I know that one.
Echo Alpha 2, Delta Tango, every single summit.
Foxtrot 4.
And you know what? Manuel cracks it, because he's such a distinctive voice, the way he says his call sign as well. Because there's loads of Spanish stations come in, Echo Alpha, but when you hear that Manuel, you just know that's Manuel, and sometimes you want to get rid of him.
I pulled him out of the pile up today. I pulled it, and Christian as well. Foxtrot 4. He's a particular way of saying it.
Yeah. Sometimes people moan about these guys because sometimes they can be overbearing. I mean, if Chris could call over anybody because the station's so powerful, but there's times I've been on a summit in the rain inside my buffet bag, desperate for contacts on HF, and you'll have Manuel, you'll have Chris, you'll have Lars from Sweden, and maybe one of the other guys, and you're just so glad sometimes that these guys are there when you need them.
Yeah.
Don's always a good one as well. Don comes up nearly every activation. Romeo Quebec Lima. I forget his first two letters.
G0.
That's it.
Great bloke. Big chaser.
Yeah, he chases. I think he's on the Worldwide Flora Fauna as well, because he's come up on a couple of those activations. I think I'm not sure. I think he might also do POTA as well.
James, I noticed Brian's on from New Zealand, so it's very early morning for him. Do you want to cover his question? It could be quite good to see what everyone thinks about it on the chat.
Oh, put the cat amongst the pigeons here. Start an argument, always good. So, yeah, I think the general gist of Brian's question was what constitutes DX, because he was saying, bearing in mind he's in New Zealand, he doesn't see America as DX. And we were talking about this just before we went live, actually. To me, I would say DX is anything on a different continent to where you are, but I'm sure some people will argue that. And I can't remember who it was.
Point to counter that, actually. Remember earlier?
I was about to bring that up. Was it Fraser who brought that up about the different bands?
Well, yeah, I said what would DX be on 2 meters, because I think if I'm working outside of Scotland on 2 meters, then that's DX for me, because I'm fairly well up country.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of came at it as HF, but then you think about it, like you say, 2 meters. So I think my best one on 2 meters FM at least was from Penny Fan in South Wales. I got all the way over to Epsom, which is sort of South London way. I think on the map that works out around about 80, 100 miles, something like that, which 2 meters FM on handheld isn't bad going.
It's good.
So, yeah, it's a fair point. It depends what band you're on. Like I say...
Callum G5XDX summarised it there. He just says it's a relative answer. Or one of the things to say here, that would be an ecumenical matter. But
yeah, I think that's a fair point, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
like I say, it's one of those...
outside your own continent, but again, if you're QRP from a hilltop with a bit of wire, I had a contact in Turkey and Israel the last time I was doing the special event call sign, and I felt pretty good about that. But yeah, I suppose. But then if you work into the Canary Islands, when you get quite a lot of SOTA happening from the Canary Islands in the summer holidays, a lot of guys go over there. That's Africa, really. So it is DX. Yeah.
Like we say, it's one of those things that's likely to get people arguing, but I think it's all about context, isn't it? If I was scanning through the bands and heard someone calling CQDX on HF, I wouldn't come back if they were in the UK or within Europe. If they were America, I would.
Yeah, I suppose.
So.
Yeah, look at it. It's just relative, isn't it? It's relative, I suppose. I mean, some people sort of you see over here as well. Like there is some people don't work really much at all on 2 meters or, you know, the higher bands at all. A lot of people just stick with the HF. I'd say it's the same everywhere in the world. Some people just really stick a lot with HF, or HF is their primary. Whereas again, like my portable log and mobile are as big as my base log, my shack log. I would do as much 2 meters as I would HF, you know.
Well, whilst we're talking about 2 meters versus HF, this was something else I was going to go into. I started off activating SOTA on 2 meters FM only. Now, is that a good budget way to go, or are you setting yourself up for frustration?
Well, Fraser sort of already answered this question. I think you mentioned earlier there, Fraser. You said up around yourself. It's not ideal being on 2 meters only. Here, depends on the part of the country you're in, really. I live close to the border here in County Donegal, and there are a number of amateurs kind of nearby as well, particularly down around Sligo and Mayo, actually, a good few 2 meter, and then there's a few in a rowing club as well, and then they know when I'm going up, so that helps. But over in GIMI in the north, there's a much bigger 2 meter, shall we say, people active on 2 meters. So a lot of the summits, I get a number of contacts from across the border as well, so that helps here, this part of Ireland anyway. Maybe some of the other guys, if there are any EI, could comment on that. So
I think I'm in a decent location regarding this, being up in Leeds, West Yorkshire. I'm close to the Northern Pennines. I'm not too far from the Lake District, about an hour and a half's drive. My first activation, I think it was January 2006. I just used a little Kenwood handheld. I had a slightly better antenna, one of the diamond antennas. I think I logged 30 QTOs that day, just with a handheld. I was on a summit called Charpor, Northern Pennines 29, which is only 357 meters, so 1,000 feet give or take. But there used to be a lot more activity on VHF. It used to be really, really rocking. But you can go into the Lake District, Northern Pennines. You'll know yourself, James, Shining Tor, Southern Pennines, overlooking Manchester. Even with a simple handheld, you'll get the 4 contacts required for your SOTA quite easily.
I've watched some of your videos, Chris. Amaze me the amount of contacts you get on 2 meters. Like you get sat down and everything, like uncomfortable with your like you're sitting there. You're able to fully set up yourself and sit down and work away on 2 meters, like 3 or 4 contacts. Now I had a good few today, but again, it was right on the border today, so and it's Christmas. But normally 3 or 4. You know, that's it around here. You get loads. You're definitely in a good spot for it, Chris.
And of course, somebody mentioned that, you know, you could be raining, it could be windy, you might be in your bothy bag. Of course, when you're at elevation, the weather's completely different to ground level. When you're at 2,500, 3,000 feet. I was on a SOTA summit some years back, speaking to a chap I know just up the road from me, and I was sat in snow, and they couldn't believe it. I think I was on Fountains Fell, just over 2,000 feet, and I was sat in the snow, and he didn't believe me. I took photographs, and you know, some people sort of want to chat, you know, whereas I think most people with the SOTA, they're sort of clued up. They get the signal report, they get the reference, get your name, all the best, and they're gone. You know, they know that you're up there in far from ideal conditions.
Yeah.
It can be different.
You're right.
Completely different. I'm sure we've all had a bit of a soaking one time or another.
Yeah. If I can come in on
I had
2 meters, you know, I love 2 meters because you can, you know, get real good distance with it, especially if there's a bit of a lift on, or if you're using sideband. Richie's on the chat here. Him and I had a 2 meter sideband contact recently. He was on a summit in Wales, and I was on a summit in northeast Scotland, and we had a 2 meter sideband contact. Brilliant, and that's as good as, you know, for me that felt as exciting as working you know, VK on sideband on HF. But I have to treat VHF like microwaving, and all the microwavers, they don't just walk up a hill and turn the radio on. They email their mates, they grease skeds, they go into various, you know, reflectors or groups and set things up. And I have to do that. But when I do, I can have real success, and you can actually show how good 2 meters is. You know, regularly work down the east coast in England, you know, 150 miles. I think Richie was 300 or 400 kilometers away with that sideband. I've worked Don G0RQL down in Devon. He absolutely loves sideband. 400 plus K contacts. Amazing what you can do, and it's that FT857 or something like an 817 or an 818, which is just the absolute toolbox of a radio that you can do everything with.
Well, the thing is, though, if you go to certain parts of the country, Pennines, Lake District, you've got quite a loyal following of 2 meters on there, so you can generate a huge pile-up on 2 meters just by calling CQ, even going up there unannounced. Kinder Scout's always been a good one for me. I've always generated a massive pile-up every time I've gone up there on 2 meters. So I think as we say, it does depend what part of the country we're in. Just bear with me 2 seconds, guys. Chat amongst yourselves. I'm just going to go and get myself some throat sweets. The odd throat's giving out. Just give me 2 minutes.
Yeah, no problem, James. Yeah, I just looking at some of the questions here, guys, as well. I see that on Coastal Waves and Wires said, I worked 2 meters from the top of the highest building in New York City once. Probably my closest thing to SOTA. Probably took the elevator, though, which is fair enough. It's very good, though. Impressive. Yeah, I was over there actually this year, and I was wondering, does anybody operate over there? I did a bit of Googling. I didn't take a radio, to be honest. It wasn't that kind of holiday. Yeah, is there anything else here now?
There's one from Niall.
Do you see anything there, either Fraser or Chris?
No,
there's one there from Niall asking about, can you only do SOTA on certain places? So the best place to start is to look at the website, which is, I think it's sota.org.uk or something like that, and it tells you about how to get started, because not every country in the world has got a SOTA association, but where there is a SOTA association in a country, they're the ones that have that list of summits for their country. It's generally all based on the Maryland principle, which is the summit has to have 150 meters of prominence all the way around. And there's an amazing app called Thoughtless, which is SOTL.AS. And you can go to that on any web browser, and it shows you every SOTA summit in the world. And that's just where it starts. It shows you who's activated it, what bands they've used. I mean, it's an app that the more and more you go into, the more and more you could find. So I'd recommend have a look at Thoughtless, SOTL.AS, and see what's in your area, Niles.
Yeah, I just posted the link up there, Fraser, as well. It's for the kind of the little blurb on how to get started is on sota.org.uk/joining-in or joining hyphen.
It's a worldwide program.
But you'll see
it's a worldwide program, but it was started by an English chap, whatever, 20 odd years ago. So it's still managed from this country, but it is a worldwide program.
Incidentally, chaps, I don't know if you guys have seen it or anybody's interested. As I mentioned earlier, that I've done a couple of presentations at local radio clubs. Now, when we had the pandemic, I was stuck at home for 7 weeks. I actually made a video, and it's on my YouTube channel, how to get started. It's on the air, so that's worth a look. If anyone's interested in getting into this sort of thing, they don't know how to get started. There's various links on there. Any questions, my email address is on qrz.com, as I'm sure you guys are as well. Anybody that wants to get involved. Yeah. But yeah, there's a good video on there.
And just on that then as well, Chris, that kind of brings us probably to some of the equipment. And I think that you guys talked already about what you started with. So like, but again, if you think you can get to people with 2 meters and 70 centimeters, just your handheld, like definitely you, Chris, as I said, like you get a serious amount. I'd say most times now you would be fairly, the hills that you seem to go to anyway, you seem to get enough for an activation on 2 meters. So yeah, and now this doesn't have SSB, it doesn't have single sideband, this Anytone ATD 878 UV, but it's a very good radio. To be honest, you don't even need a radio like this. You guys might want to share some of your kit you have. I have a bit of an upgrade, sort of a tactical antenna on it, but I have activated with the little 7-inch whip that comes with this radio, and you just program it up to whatever 2 meter calling frequency, maybe another 1 or 2 frequencies, so you can QSY or change frequency if you don't want to stay on the calling frequency, and then you can go HF or whatever.
If you're on 2 meters,
no, you don't need.
You can start by maybe calling into a local repeater and see who's on that. Now, the repeater contacts don't count for SOTA. It has to be simplex contacts, but there's nothing wrong with going on to a repeater and seeing who's about and then asking them to try use simplex as well.
Yeah, yeah, I've done that before, actually. I've done that before. It's a good option if you have a repeater within range. Yeah, yeah. I see.
And you don't need expensive equipment either. I mean, I've got the ICOM 705 lovely radio, but before I got that for 2 meters, I was just using this. This is quite an old ICOM IC92D. It's one of the first generation D Star. I don't use the D Star. I only run it on 2 meters. But even some of the cheaper handhelds, the Waxon or Wotion or however you're supposed to pronounce it, I've got a couple of them as well, and they work quite nicely, but they're a bit prone to descents if you've got other masts on the summits. Having said that, you can get filters for them. I've got one over here, hold on.
Yeah, funny enough, while James is away, I've got a video coming out in January where I test 4 different handhelds on a summit that's surrounded by masts that caused me a massive issue the last time I was up there. And I use, as part of the video, you'll see me using a SOTA Beams filter, which James is probably about to demonstrate.
One of them.
We've all got them.
Exactly.
Yeah, I only got it just before.
An absolute godsend. Absolute godsend.
Yeah, they work really well.
It lets you use even the cheaper radios. It'll make it usable.
That's it.
It's probably more expensive than some of the cheaper radios. You could get a buffing for 25 quid and then you're 40 quid for the filter.
For the filter. Yeah, I haven't actually used it yet. I only got it just before Christmas. So there's a hill site actually where the repeater is, where the repeater that I keep is on Trustmore beside me. I think it's an 8-pointer, but 2 meters is just, you can hear nothing. But I'm gonna test this up there. It's a massive transmitter site. So
didn't you have a repeater filter, Dave? You tried once before in one of your earlier videos.
I had it was a bit of a, but sure, that's what the hobby's about, messing and experimenting. I had
exactly.
I had a duplexer. It would have been a VHF duplexer from a commercial system that was decommissioned, and I just wondered would I be able to tune that or use the cavities in that to use it as a filter on that particular site. The video again is on my YouTube channel. It didn't work. But what can you do? But I still think it might actually work if I maybe had the right tools to tune it right.
Yeah, they're fussy about tuning, aren't they?
Yeah,
those filters. Yeah. You have to.
So
you have to get it right.
You do. So look, I'm not. I wouldn't abandon that idea, to be honest with you. But obviously, it's a lot more cumbersome than this little bad boy here. So.
Yeah, these are easy. Yeah. The only thing with these is you have to watch your power output, because if you actually look on the back, it says 5 watts on SSB continuous. Yeah. So if you're running 2 meters, you probably don't want to put more than about 2 watts through it.
Yeah.
No.
But,
the thing is, though,
what I have done,
you'll not need to use it with a sideband, because if you're using sideband, you tend to be using a bigger radio like an FT857 or something. And the front end filtering in these big radios is so much better, and you shouldn't really have any desensing from transmitters, because I've used my 857 on hilltops with transmitters before without any problems. It's really just the handheld that you need to use it with.
I must admit, with the ICOM 705, I've never had any issues. But one thing I have done is, in the past, I've put the filter on the handheld, and I've got a little linear amp, and I've run the linear amp off of that. So put about 2 watts into the linear amp, boost it up about 10 watts on the output.
After the filter. Oh, right, okay. Oh, very good.
Yeah, obviously make sure the filter's before the linear amp, otherwise you'll blow it sky high.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, that's something I've done before.
Well, that comes to another question. I know we're at 10 to now, but the kit and the weight. I definitely have to get my weight down. I was carrying a bag today, and I was just like, I've done it for too long now. I need to lighten my kit. I don't know who has the lightest kit. I'd say Fraser maybe for operating.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You go very lightweight, Fraser, even when you're staying overnight. I think my back today. Like
you guys, I started with an 857 because that's what I had, and I know Dave's got a similar radio. But then because I'm really more into sort of mountaineering and stuff like that, I wanted to go further and higher And I had to like my kit. I did an overnight expedition using the 857 and a big battery and a big mast. And my rucksack weighed 19 kilos. Now this summer I went on a 3-night trip with a 12-kilo rucksack, and I did 7 summits or something like that, or over the 3 days. And it's ultimately the KX2 with the internal battery is what I have now, and a carbon fiber mast, and then a simple a 41-foot wire or an 84-foot wire, and it's absolutely transformed what I do, because for a lightweight expedition, whereas radio is part of the expedition, it's absolutely ideal for me. If you want to sit on a hilltop and work DX in the summer, then it's not the setup for that. You would probably want more power and a resonant antenna and a higher mast and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a set of kit that absolutely suits what I like doing.
Well, talking about scaling down, I've been out spending money. I've just bought myself a new radio. I've not even used it yet. Well, I say new, it's second hand. It's one of these Zygu things. It's the 5105.
Oh, yeah.
They've now replaced it with the, is it the 6100, the latest one? But I've yet to try that out, so that'll be interesting.
Is that 10 watts with an external battery, is it? Or does it do 10?
I think this one's only 5 watts. The 6100, I think, does 10, but this one only does 5.
Maybe it's the newer one I was looking at. Very good. Nice little radio.
But, yeah. Well, it looks fairly robust.
Does that have the internal battery, James?
Yeah, internal battery. I don't know how long it would last, but obviously you take a small external battery.
I look forward to seeing that in action.
Yeah, well, so like I said, I was hoping to get it out, but I've been a bit ill the last couple of weeks, so I haven't made it up any summits. But yeah, that and a small battery. I use these small homebrew lithium batteries. Absolutely brilliant for that. Powers the ICOM 705 nicely. Probably do that quite nicely as well.
Once you get away,
zippy.
yeah.
Bit
I've got
big,
one of
that
them as well.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Fraser.
No, I was just going to say, once you get your head around the fact that you can actually do it with 5 watts, it will transform your life. You know, I like, when I got my KX2, I was still using my external battery because I hadn't got around to making one for it. So it was running on 12 watts with a big battery. I thought, oh, this is great. Then I put the internal in and it was only 10 watts. And it still made all the same contacts. And then halfway through a big pile up one day, the battery in a KX2, it drops down to 5 volts, 5 watts of power when the battery voltage drops a little bit. And I hadn't even noticed. And I was working the same guys, getting the same signal reports. And it was just at the end I noticed that the bar graph was only going up to 5. And I thought, well, I've just worked all these boys on 5 watts, and it does not make a huge amount of difference when you're doing SOTA, the amount of power.
I don't think so. Yeah, I still have to sort of get my head into that space, Fraser. To be honest with you, and you're right. And you have to remember as well that people want to get you. People want to chase you. Like they're not coming onto the frequency when they see the spot, like for no reason. They want to get you. So like they're actively trying you. So I suppose there's that as well. Like they're making an effort to get you. So you like. I think with low power and Chris is the done it massively there. What he's with the DXCCs he has and the contacts he has on. Would you say 5 watts or less? I think you said, Chris.
5 watts or less, yeah.
Yeah,
on the head there. You make yourself desirable. People want to work you. You make yourself that DX. Yeah.
And it's the same with the Worldwide Flora Fauna. Any of the award schemes, I think, that's the beauty of them. That's one of the cool things about them too. You're desirable, as you say. People want to make contact. Yeah.
I think the other thing if you're someone that studies, the propagation and the bands and maybe looks to see what's going on at different times of the day, then you can make the DX work with 5 watts. I was on a summit using that call sign the other week, and I was trying to get a 10-meter contact, and no one at all was calling me. So I went hunting around the band, and 10 meters was open brilliantly. And there was a guy calling from Puerto Rico, and I said my call sign, and I got in straight away, and he gave me a genuine 5.9 with a chat for a couple of minutes. And I was running 10 watts from the KX2. Unbelievable, really, what you can do if the band's open.
Yeah.
Well, I've been messing about just as an experiment, not particularly scientific, but in the shack down here, you can't see it, it's off camera. I've got a Yaesu FTDX10. I run 10 watts from that. and I've got a linear amp next to it, which takes that up to about 250 watts. So I was messing about with the web SDRs, just transmitting on 10 watts, then bring the linear amp in and seeing how much difference it makes. And I reckon between roughly about 10 watts and about 250 watts, I reckon it makes roughly about 2 S points difference, at least on NVIS.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Very roughly.
Everybody's talking about their own specific favourite QRP radio in the chat, and I think these days there are so many good ones.
Well, I have a KX2 on my list. If I can spot, if one pops up somewhere, I think that'll force me into the sort of the realm of bringing my power down. I think I need to be sort of pushed into it. Although, to be honest with you, today carrying that thing a good few kilometers up a hill, I was kind of going, I just don't need this. Like, so, yeah. I do like to do. I have to say though, I do like the other good thing about the likes of the KX2. If you haven't, I wouldn't like to carry an external tuner. I would like something that has a tuner in it. I'd probably get the KX2 with the internal tuner, and then your antenna is whatever you want it to be. It's one antenna. You're not, on a simple one, it can be vertically up your fiberglass pole or whatever, and you just tune it in. And it's because people want to work you, you're going to get the contacts.
That's it. And if you're wanting to go and get some DX, then you just have to take a different aerial with you and a different setup. It's exactly what you want to do on the day.
Yeah.
You tailor the aerial to what you're trying to do. I mean, generally a vertical will be better for DX, and often smaller and lighter as well. Down here I've got this cropped up quite a few times on my channel, slide winder coil.
Yeah.
And military whip, roughly, I think that's about 2.5 meters on the military whip. You just adjust it by, you see that metal ring there, just slide that up and down. A few radials, and that works brilliant. It's compromised on 40. You struggle on some of the 40 meter contacts, but for a lightweight antenna, just strap it to the side of your bag. Absolutely brilliant.
I mean, we've got a couple of guys on that are really into antennas and do brilliant antenna videos. So obviously, Tim G5TM does a lot of antenna stuff, and then Colin, I'm going to call him out because he's just come on really late. MM0OPX. Colin's got a brilliant channel where he's done an amazing amount of research into transformers and all sorts of stuff, Moxons. Really spends a lot of time looking at antennas as well. And these guys, you look at their channels, you learn so much about antenna modeling and how to make them in practice.
Carl or James, somebody just asked here about where you got or a link to the I think to the coil.
Yeah, I've just seen that. I'm on it.
Okay,
I'm on it.
Yeah. I'm just kind of looking through them here because I know we're coming near the end, so just trying to not miss anybody. I know everybody. I know you guys are looking at it too.
So, yeah, the website is M1ECC Antennas. Just going to put a link in there. There you go. Link in the chat there if you want to check that out. I'll try and remember to put it in the description as well afterwards.
Yeah, I see Jason just said to me, Quilca is some trek, Dave. I done it a couple of weeks ago. That's the summit I was on today. I've been up there before. It's actually the highest point in County Cavan and the highest point in County Fermanagh. So I did the county high, the 32 county high points a few years ago. So I was up there before, not doing radio now, but yeah, it's a good walk up there now, to be honest. It was very wet and sort of blustery today. It wasn't a pleasant one, but it's always nice to be in the hills, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's a bit of a trek, all right. Thanks, Jason.
Well, I've got my bothy bag hanging behind me drying here because I was in that special event this morning, and it was snow on the ground, and it wasn't due to snow till noon. At 10 o'clock in the morning, the snow came on in the middle of the pile-up. So I was actually on the radio with one hand and trying to get the bothy bag out my rucksack and threw it over my head. To tuck myself inside it. But it saved the day because I would have had to stop operating. It let me keep going for another hour because once I was inside that, it was absolutely toasty. It's really good.
They're brilliant. They're brilliant. Like, they're hard to beat. Like, we just call them storm shelters here, but but what I learned today is what I've learned actually before, and I should have known today. I got cold today. Now I think I even said it to you, James, on the QSO. And I didn't stay on 40 meters, was my last band, very long. And that's one thing people are thinking of going up. Look, you guys have the same sort of climate as yourselves, as myself here. And then this time of year, like I should have got straight into that and stayed in it for the whole. Once I went on to HF anyway, I should have just stayed in it because I got cold. And I only caught myself kind of starting to shake a little bit because you know when you're fiddling with the radio and messing around, you get a bit distracted. So then it very quickly kind of had to finish my activation and get down. So yeah, they're great.
Yeah, it's always just as you start shaking, the pile up comes along, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that's a day like that. I mean, I had a W3 EDP, which is such an old-fashioned antenna, but it's an 84-foot wire. I run it through a 9-to-1, and the KX2 tuner, I'll tune it on any band. So you're inside your little shelter, and then that means you can work any band and you don't have to get out. Whereas obviously if you're using linked antennas or resonant antennas, you know, you having to get yourself out. You're never going to do that and then go back in again. You're just going to call it a day and go back down. So that's when it's ideal having a tuner and a random wire type setup, and it worked well today.
Do you just quickly, Fraser? Do you have the internal tuner in the KX?
Yeah, I bought my KX2 with no battery, no tuner, and I managed to get a tuner from Germany, new, cheaper than they were in the UK. And then I actually built my own batteries for it. I've got two. I'll show you two lithium-ion batteries. They are actually I bought one off I think it's Grand Tano for about 10 quid. And these are high quality 18650 cells. That's the cells there, the individual cells. And I buy them from a company that sells to the vape industry, and they're really good, like Sanyo batteries. And I made that one up myself, and I've got the balanced charger point on it as well, so I can balance charge it. So
very good.
I think they're 85 quid from Ellicraft, and I made this for about 20 quid.
Yeah, there you go. But that's another part of the hobby, though, isn't it? As you get confident and learn. Yeah. And I suppose that's the purpose of the test and the exam. That's why you sort of do it, is because you can be often working with things like power and batteries, and you know, or even RF power, like, so it's yeah, that's pretty cool.
Okay, so let's very quickly go into coax cables then. What coax do you feed your antennas with on either SOTA or when you're out doing flora fauna?
I use the RG174 link that comes with a link dipole. The losses on HF are not that great with that. It's only a short run of it. It's light and it does a job for me.
Yeah, I know a lot of people use it. Personally, I've never been keen on that. As you say, it's probably more psychological because the losses, as you say, you rightly say, they're absolutely tiny on HF. But for me, I try and get my equipment to do everything for me, which I don't know if that's quite the right way to go about it. So on VHF, that coax cable would be hugely lossy. So I try and carry a cable that I can do both VHF and HF on, because I try and activate both. So if I was to go for the small skinny stuff, I'd probably end up carrying the thick stuff anyway to do HF. So I just tend to carry the thick stuff.
Well, I'm the same. I'm the same as Chris, James. I have that's the SOTA beams link dipole set up there. You know, there's the two legs. I have mine sort of cut and set up for 20 and 40. You have your ballon there, and it's the RG 174. I've never actually made a cable with that, but my 2 meter and my HF are totally separate anyway. So that's what I have. Same as Chris, I think.
I generally plug my antennas straight into my my radio, or you know, through a 9-to-1 or a 64-to-1 or a 49-to-1. But if I'm using my end-fed half, have
you calculated the loss on that, Fraser?
No.
I was going to say, this guy's smart. He's got no loss at all.
Well, that's it. But then obviously you've got a lossy transformer instead. But I same as you guys, I use the skinny stuff. If I'm using my end fed, there's 5 meters of it there. It looks like a bird's nest, but it's actually like a figure of 8 coil. And then I've got a little choke that I made as well that's got BNC connectors on each end. So if I want to run a bit more power, I'll put the choke in line. If I'm just using QRP, I don't bother. And I've got some really fancy a 5 meter length is some really fancy. It's like a semi-hard line stuff that I use for VHF, and I can't exactly remember the name of it. It's not an RG anything. But I mean, James, you carry a lot more gear than me to Summit. I don't mind carrying a separate bit of coax for VHF if it's a nice efficient bit.
Yeah, I'm probably a bit overkill with what I carry, to be honest. I've got a huge, great rucksack. By the time I've got all the camera gear in there and the radio equipment as well. The ICOM 705 isn't exactly light, so
yeah.
I don't know. I'm probably
about does anyone use the K6 ARK Unons? So you can order them from Adam's Amazon store, and I built one. They're beautiful, tiny little 9-to-1s that can, with the BNC on them, that can go straight into your radio. But they're
he does 49-to-1s as well, doesn't he? For NFED halfways. You
can get the kit. You can wire it as either a ball-in or a 9-to-1 or a 49-to-1. And I just chose a 9-to-1 to use it with a 41-foot wire. But I actually lost it in the summer. It's so small, I dropped it in the heather on the Summit.
Oh.
So I've actually I've made a replacement myself, and I put it inside the that's a cut down tube for one of these 18650 cells. So it's exactly the same as what Adam has. It's the same toroid and everything, but I can't be trusted with small nice things. So I wrapped orange duct tape around it so I wouldn't lose it. So it's only that size, so that if I drop it, I can find it again.
Yeah, I must admit, I was looking at those transformers and thinking about getting my hands on one. Adam, if you're watching, I'll do a review for you.
Just see Julian Chapman says mountain safety even more important than ham radio. Yeah, I agree totally.
Yeah, definitely.
That's one of the reasons there's weight in my bag, because there's usually the bothy bag, as the guys call it, or the storm shelter, as I call it, a bit of first aid stuff and everything else. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, that was one of the points on my list I was going to come on to. So I always carry first aid kit. I've got the bothy bag, multiple layers of clothing, spare waterproofs, all that sort of stuff, and spare navigation as well. So spare GPS. So I carry 2 GPSs. Really, we should be carrying maps and compass as well.
Yeah, safety really is. There might be people watching this either live or they catch up on it later on. They want to get involved with SOTA. You really got to think about this, especially this time of year. Don't get some idea to go do that 3,000-foot mountain that's near you at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You've only got 2 hours a day. Think about this.
Start small and work up.
Yeah,
start on the smaller summits. Start off on the drive-on summits that you can literally park on, walk a few hundred yards, and build your way up. Don't just go straight up Ben Nevis.
Take somebody with you. If you can't, certainly let people know where you're going. Safety is massive. Absolutely massive.
It doesn't matter how much you do this. Sooner or later, you'll have one that will catch you out, and you won't make it. There's a video on my channel. I attempted Ben Nevis and got about 3/4 of the way up and ended up abandoning it.
Well, just quickly, we were on holiday in Wales a few years ago. Natalie and I. That's my partner, Mike 7 November Tango Delta, walking up Ballyvan, North Wales 40, something that we'd done before, and we're just walking through like a grass field. And Natalie went over on her ankle, 9 weeks off work. That easy. Something that I've done before, just went over, sprained her ankle, it wasn't broken, but blew up like a balloon. It's that easy. Really got to be careful.
Yeah, and in the Irish Hills, majority of them aren't massive, and you can get lost in the mist and things like that, but it's not like action movie stuff where you're going to be hanging off a cliff or falling or anything like that. In the winter particularly, it's exactly that. It's falling over on your ankle, and then if there's mist down, the helicopter can't come out. You're waiting for whatever amount of hours for mountain rescue to get to you. So like today, for example, I was a good few kilometers away from up mountainous terrain, away from anybody who could get to me on foot, and they'd have to get to where they'd have to start, drive to where they'd start hiking. So you'd be sitting there, yes, with maybe just a twist or a broken ankle, but you'd be sitting in the cold for a long time. I mean, I operated radio for probably 45 minutes to an hour, and I was getting cold now, today. So you'd be waiting there for hours with a broken ankle. So even just to have that body bag / storm shelter, an extra layer, good clothes. Yeah, big time.
Food and water as well.
Yeah.
I always make the point that you should, if you're going up a mountain, you should be able to survive up there for at least 2 days on your supplies. Give the mountain rescue time to get to you. The other thing people forget is mountain rescue isn't exactly as straightforward as you see in the movies. People think, oh, you call out a helicopter, out comes the helicopter, they pluck you out.
Oh.
Usually it's a group of guys scramble up the hills, put you on the stretcher and carry you down.
Yeah,
and a lot of these guys, the volunteers, aren't they? They have day
Exactly.
jobs. They have day jobs just like you and I do.
Yeah,
you know, they're sat at home with family having the tea, and they'll get a call because somebody's got into trouble somewhere. You know.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, I'm with the Sligo Leitrim one here locally, actually. So yeah, it's important to me. I think safety, winter particularly. But again, the Irish Hills, it's about fog. Get lost is one thing, but in the winter, it's just about having the stuff with you that you can keep yourself warm until somebody can get to you. A day like today, if I fell, and I'm as prone to falling as anybody else or twisting my ankle, no more than Natalie. The helicopter wouldn't have been out today. I would have been there for hours. You know,
Scary.
Yeah. So you just get cold. You know, you'd hypothermic.
One of the things.
Yes, it's a very good point I was going to come to, and I'm glad somebody did bring it up in the comments. So it's well worth mentioning. Something, like I say, something I did want to cover today. So, I mean, look, we've been going for over an hour now. I believe Callum's going live at past. So just to round things up, plans for your channels for next year? What's on the agenda? Got anything in particular, either for your channel or projects you want to work on? Fraser, I know you're looking at QO100 satellite, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got kit at home to build a QO100 system using an SDR, but I've never actually been home long enough to get it going, or when I am, you know, the weather's not good enough. So yeah, that's definitely going to happen. I actually do operate 6 meters from home. I've got a 5-element beam on the roof, and I've been doing some meteor scatter recently and some winter ease, and I'd like to be in the right place at the right time when 6 meters is open this summer, because that's pretty exciting when that works. I very rarely do HF from home. I do have a long wire up, and it's really just for chasing my mates who are on SOTA summits, and maybe about half a dozen times a year. That's the only time that gets used. So in terms of the channel, everybody seems to like the sort of scenery and all that kind of stuff that comes with my videos. So I want to keep putting that out. And if anything happens along the way that I think would be useful, I'll maybe do a short video on it. Just the other day, like taking your telescopic pole apart when you come home and wiping it down so it doesn't freeze solid on the next summit, like what happened to me.
Very quick anecdote. I went up a SOTA summit the other day with this. This is a MRQ 213 telescopic whip. Had that set up. It started snowing, and as I was collapsing it, literally there were chunks of ice on it which were breaking off, and they were falling on my head as I was collapsing it. So surprising how cold it can get up there. Dave, your plans?
Yeah, you know, it's going to be more of the same, James. I think I'm going to get definitely going to be working on taking a bit of weight out of the pack. I think that'll come in the form of, hopefully, if I can come across maybe a secondhand KX2, and you see that'll allow me. I don't want to add a tuner, which is just going to be more weight to my current HF kit. So I'd love to get a lighter HF radio with a built-in tuner, and then I can just have a one-off random wire antenna that I can tune. You know, that's kind of where I'd like to get to with the kit and show how that develops. I'd like to also I'm going to try to include some of the people in the club, some of the EIs over here, or anybody. I'd like to get some other people on the channel as well. Other operators that, you know, aren't YouTubers, but, you know, just kind of some of the local club members or whoever going out on our field days and get a bit of footage of that rather than it just all being me. But pretty much the same. Yeah, that bit of mobile, portable, more worldwide flora fauna. Might take on some sort of a challenge on the SOTA side of it, even just a personal challenge, trying to do a few more. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And anyone who's watching the stream, who watches my channel, thank you very much. Really do appreciate it. And obviously, James, thanks very much for having me in the stream as well.
Well, thank you for joining us. And I think your channel's starting to grab a bit of traction, isn't it? Now,
Yeah, I'm pretty happy.
Starting to go up.
Yeah, working with you guys has been really fun as well. Like when you initially made contact with us, I think it was well, it would have been before last October, a year ago, and we did that the SOTA party, if you recall, and I think it was October.
Well, that's it. I mean, my channel was quite small then as well, so my channel's grown a bit. So we've sort of grown together in a way.
Yeah. And, that's very good.
We've done a lot of cross promoting as well with our channels. We've done a lot of collaborations, so
and
I think it's worked well for all of us.
We all do SOTA, but we also are all different. There's differences as well, and it's a nice eclectic group. So.
Well, that's the one thing I've always said for someone wanting to start a YouTube channel. Yes, it's all amateur radio. Yes, it's all portable radio, but try and find your own niche. Try and do it slightly differently to what other people are doing. Put your own twist on it.
Yeah.
Chris, plans for next year then?
More HF for my activations, although I'll always do 2 meters. I'll never give up the VHF. Over the years, I won't say I've got quite a following, but we have the regular callers, don't we, that call in. So I'll never drop that. So more HF activations. I've got a couple of interesting videos with the Yaesu FT817. I don't want to give away at the minute, so they'll have to wait.
Fair enough.
And making some more days with you guys. The activity days that we have when the 4 of us went out.
Yeah,
we managed to work each other that day. It was fantastic. So a couple more of them. I think that's about it, really. Just more of the same.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about trying to do it on 2 meters SSB, weren't we? Which would, I think that would be good fun.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. We'll have to make that happen. Probably more as we get towards the summer.
Okay, I'll blame you, James. You're the reason I had to buy another radio. Thank you.
I'll take that. I thank you. I think for me, more the same. I'm planning to do very slight rebranding with the channel, change a couple of logos here and there, nothing too major. More SOTA, more worldwide flora fauna, try and do a few more POTAs. I'm also working on putting together a QO100 system, so I think that's pretty much what I'm going to be focusing on next year. Callum, who was in the comments earlier, I want to try and catch up with him and get down to Poldu again and do a bit more down there. I've been talking about that in the background, so we'll see how that goes. That needs a bit of discussion, but it probably happens. So yeah, I think those are the plans for my channel in the coming year. And with that, just a quick check on the comments. Make sure we haven't missed any. No, I think we've covered all the questions in the comments, haven't we? So just say a big thank you to you guys for joining me tonight, and big thank you to all of our viewers as well. Yeah. It's been a lot of fun tonight. Hope everyone had a great Christmas. All the best in the new year, and we'll obviously we'll all be back with more videos in the new year. Thanks a lot, folks. I click this button. It's all over.
Thanks for having us, James.
Thanks
7 3s, everyone. All the best.
Thanks for organising, James.
No worries. Thank you.